Do you guys ever find yourself stuck in a mental loop that you can't seem to break free from? Welcome to ADHD Insights, and today we're going to be talking about ADHD and rumination. You've got to understand our brain, like I always talk about, lacks dopamine. And because our brain lacks dopamine, when we are trying to do things that are considered like boring or not as engaging to our interest-based learning brain, well, that's when these ruminating thoughts will stimulate inside of our DMN, which stands for our default mode network. Now, we're going to speak about that a little bit later into the video, specifically more on how our DMN affects us and how we can get into our TPM, which is our task positive network, which in terms is the brain's focus mode. So when you're doing really high engaging tasks, that's when we tend to enter our TPM. So let's jump straight into it. Why do we ruminate? So the reason that we ruminate is because we are bored. Quite frankly, our brain has no dopamine from the task it's doing. So the only way it can get dopamine is by feeding us negative thought patterns. Now, for me, rumination kind of shows up in a lot of ways. For me, it's thinking about past things and past mistakes. For me, it's thinking about me being a failure and an imposter. The times I notice this happens is when I'm trying to relax. Maybe I'm trying to just chill out for a bit, not do any work. And this is when the ruminating thoughts come in. For me, it's laziness. Because I was called lazy my whole life and told that, you're just being lazy, Luke. Oh my God, you're so lazy. Why are you not doing that? For me, that ruminates. So every time I try to relax or chill out without doing anything that's technically productive, that's when the thoughts hit me. For you, it could show in different ways. For you, you're trying to relax and all of a sudden all these thoughts come in about how much of a failure you are when you're not. But these thoughts are the ones that are entering your mind. Now, I just finished watching How to ADHD's video, Jess, and she actually covered this topic in depth, which I will leave linked below in the description because I think this video is amazing. I'm going to try and break down a little bit of this video, but if you do want to watch that original video, I highly recommend watching it. We seem to notice is that our thought patterns, our negative thought patterns, seem to stem in our default mode network, which is short for DMN. Now, in the video, they like to refer to it as a demon, which I kind of think is very accurate. And it's responsible for your passive and reflective thought. You want to think about it like this. When you're not doing anything, this is when your DMN is switched on. We often tend to find that is the source of our rumination. And what often happens is we tend to believe the stories that are told to us through the default mode network, and these are the negative thought patterns. Like I spoke about before, for me it was laziness, constantly thinking I'm lazy. People don't understand how debilitating it gets when you're sitting there and you're fighting against your brain and you're trying to think your way out of it. Because ADHD people, if you're like me, you try to always logically work your way through things. It's like, okay, well, I feel this way, let me try to logically fight my way out of it. And what's funny about this is when we're versing this demon, we often tend to lose this battle because it outthinks us, it outsmarts us, it tells us all these thoughts and things that seem true on the surface. So when we try to logically battle it, we lose because, well, if I'm relaxing now, I am lazy because I'm not doing anything. So we lose that battle when in reality, it's not a battle that needs to be had. So basically, how can we escape these negative thought loops? The first thing we can do is recognize our thought patterns, or when we start to ruminate. For me, it is quite hard to recognize this, but I still get days where it takes me a good hour or even 2 hours to realize I've just been sitting in my bed being basically depressed and negative about myself and having these negative thought patterns. So we need to get out of this mode. We need to enter into the present. So the first thing you can do, like I said, is recognize it. As soon as you recognize this, you need to understand that, oh, my demon's activated because I'm bored. I'm trying to get these stimulating thoughts because, like I spoke about before in the video, oftentimes ADHD has lacked dopamine. So when you're trying to do something that is boring or doesn't give you that instant satisfaction or stimulation, I should say, what's going to happen? Your brain's going to find a way to stimulate itself. And it is such a simple thing, but once you recognize that, you're able to then move forward. So the next step I'd like to give is change your environment. For me, I noticed that ADHD, again, it thrives on that stimulation. So when you notice yourself ruminating, change your environment. Even going through a doorway, this allows those thought patterns to stop and be interrupted by something that's happening in the moment. This works well for me. If I notice I'm having a negative thought pattern, I will then go outside, get fresh air, juggle my football. So I love to kick the football around. It's something that I always have close by to me. So I'll just do that. And that is what gets me out of these ruminating thoughts. But it needs to be in a different area or a different room. You can't kind of stay in the same room and try to think your way out of it. You can if you're going to play some video games or do something that's stimulating, which we'll talk about soon, going into that task positive network. But most of the time, you're going to suffer in silence. So it's better to go out, get some fresh air and just do something different. So step number 3 is move your body. Exercise, loud music. The things I said before, like what we know about physical movement is that it actually, like I said before, it shifts from your DMN to your TPM. So it allows you to shift into that task positive network. It allows you to focus on the exercise. So going for a quick workout, going for a run, a walk, listening to music and dancing. This is one that's overrated. I don't know about you, but how many of you have shower concerts? I know I do. I blast my favorite music, sing my heart out. And in that moment, all I'm focused on is the lyrics. I'm present, I'm dancing, dancing, I'm enjoying myself, I'm physically active. It's giving me new stimuli for my brain. This is another way that you can escape that negative demon that's trying to feed you these negative thoughts that most of the time aren't even true. And then my final tip, guys, is call a friend, talk to somebody. It could be anybody, someone that you trust. For me, I tend to even speak about the negative thoughts I'm happening to somebody like my mom, and I'll kind of just tell like, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling lazy, I don't know why, and I'll just kind of ram it all out. And sometimes she won't even give me advice, she'll just listen. And by the end of it, I've spoke it all out. I'm most of the time feeling a lot better, and I feel like, okay, I can move on with my day now. I've actually allowed these thoughts to exit my brain. And it can also give you a very different perspective on the thoughts you're having if they do give you advice. But like maybe they counteract and say, well, you're actually not lazy, you did X, Y, and Z this week or today. Take it easy on yourself. And it will just give you that reassurance that, okay, it's just a thought pattern. It's just a negative thought pattern, because as we know with ADHD, these thought patterns get quite destructive and lead you down a path of self-sabotage. For me, many of the times it's led me down paths of binge eating, taking excessive drugs, taking excessive drink. It's made me do things I didn't want to do. And that's why I like to refer to it as the demon, because it's telling you, it's almost like a voice in your head that's just trying to put you down in life and trying to lower your inhibitions or your confidence. I think that by talking to somebody, like I said before, it can really help you snap out of that. Now, I want to talk about what our TPN is, because it's quite fascinating and quite interesting how our brain operates. You see, our TPN is the brain's focus mode, and this TPN is required for tasks requiring active engagement. So the goal here is to switch from our DMN to our TPN. Now, how can we do that? By doing something that is engaging. Like I said before, by listening to music, going out, doing exercise, speaking to a friend, or even playing a video game. But it has to be something that engages your TPN, which, like I said before, it has to be stimulating enough. It can't be doing the dishes, it can't be, doing some household chores. But yeah, next time you notice this, implement these steps. It's really hard sometimes to do that first step, which is recognizing it, because that's what I find the hardest. It can take me hours sometimes to even realize I've been sitting here with self-defeating thoughts, with negative thought patterns. And these negative thought patterns can really spiral if you let it. So it's important that you get a hold of it really quickly and you recognize it, because for me, especially in my past, the thoughts of laziness has led to days and days of binge eating and feeling sorry for myself. But yeah, now next time you have those tools to break free. So you did learn something new in this video, or you found value from this video, feel free to hit that subscribe button or hit that like button. It really does help me out.